you are looking at is a archetype for Talislanta. And if you can't see it real good, apologies. Um, let's see, what does this do? No, that doesn't do anything. Apologies, but you can see here what you got is your attributes. And like this guy's got 0 intelligence, 0 personality, I think that is, or perception, 0 will, +1 charisma, +3 strength, +0 dex, +0 con, +0 speed, and 15 base hit points, right? Then it's got the languages that this character speaks, special skills the character has, or abilities, and then the skills and gear the character starts with. So to make a Talislanta character, you basically copy all of that down, and then you get to modify it by spending 35 XP to buy or raise skills you already, buy new skills or raise skills you already have, right? And after that, you can raise up to 3 attributes by 1, or, basically you get +3 to attributes, and you can divide it any way you want amongst, oh, is somebody already in the, oh no, it's the other window. Pretty much however you want. So like with this character, you could say, I want him not to be very charismatic. So you could reduce his charisma to 0. And you could say, but I want him to be strong as hell. So increase that strength to like +6, right? And then take your 35 XP and pick up a couple of basic skills and maybe raise a couple of skills. No higher than level 3, though. And the character's done. I mean, once you write everything down, the character is done. So that's one of the things about Talislanta that is actually, in my opinion, so absolutely amazing, is how easy it is to make a character. And the answer is it's incredibly easy. It's like the easiest thing ever. You can make a character. In the time I just explained how to make a character, you can make a character. You know what I'm saying? So that's a huge bonus. And then as you level up, you will gain XP. When you play the game, you'll gain XP, and you will use that XP to increase skills, attributes, whatever you want. So you've got your starting character, which is going to be, very typical of the archetypical character of that type. But then if you've played the game for a couple months, your character could be totally different than any other Abyssian heretic, let's say. And I just really like that. I find that to be an incredibly cool thing about Talislanta. So if you want to make a mage, but you want to spend points to raise their ability with weapons, you can do that. I mean, of course, you still get penalties if you're trying to cast spells wearing armor, but you can do it though. I mean, there's no one stopping you. By all means, give it a shot if you want. You roll your die 20 with the penalties and negatives, and if you roll high enough, then you get to succeed at whatever. The cyborg, hello, the cyborg. How are you? So that really is character generation. Of course, I was showing you the PDF. I do, in fact, have the hardbound player's book. I am still waiting out. Sechi told me he was going to get in contact with me yesterday about where my other 2 books are. Actually, other 3, because I should have 2 of these. And he didn't. So I'm going to have to contact him again and be like, hey, guys, send the stuff out because this shit's getting a little bit whatever. Now, Hungar all of a sudden has decided that he might want to not play the One Ring, which I'm having a blast playing, and I think other players are too, and just go right to playing Talislanta. And he has decided to play a Blue Birdman. Well, their name is Ernid, and they come in blue and green. The green ones are mostly mages. The blue ones are warriors. And I'm really surprised by that, as I've said before, because Hunger has always played like a thrall. And now all of a sudden he wants to play the Blue Birdman warrior. And what I have done to represent a Blue Birdman or a Green Birdman is I've bought a WizKids Kinku. Because the Birdmen, they really don't have wings anymore at all. They might have feathers sticking out of their arms, like through here. And if I need to, print some feathers or something to glue to it, I can. Or who cares? Not. And just call it a day. Kind of like this is a Reaper Tabaxi, but it will also make a wonderful Jacka, Manhunter, or Beastmaster. The other things I got from Reaper, which may not interest you at all, is just a bunch of cowboys. Because I have recently went through a whole kick where I've been buying a bunch of cowboys. And so I picked up a named female gunslinger and 2 Texas Rangers, a male and a female Texas Ranger, a Mexican named something Loco Ramirez, a couple of hucksters, because you never know if, they could count as just card sharks, but they could also count as hucksters in a game of Deadlands, which, I wouldn't be above or opposed to running at some point. I happen to be a huge fan of Deadlands, so there's that. And I got old Coot Jenkins, who is a miner of some sort. So yeah, I just went on these guys. The plastic guys were like $2 a piece on Reaper, $2.99, I think, because Reaper was having a sale. And of course, I'm gonna have to wash them and everything before I paint them, but you always do that, right? That's just a given. And then I've got, of course, my hucksters and my miner and my Mexican bandito, who appears to have an iguana hanging off his back, along with a big bottle of whiskey. But he's got his bandolier, he's got his sombrero on, so that's what I really wanted, because I mean, if you're going to play a Western, come on, you gotta have Mexican guy in there. I mean, you're playing in the Southwest. Mexico is literally right across the border from Texas, Arizona, Southern California. So, I mean, and in Deadlands, Mexico has actually invaded the Confederacy, I believe. So, like Southern California is not necessarily just anybody, There's some argument there. I think Santa Ana might be undead. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that back up again, but yeah. So these guys came with tabs and those really big Reaper bases, which are pretty cool if you want to show who the leader of your saga army is, but not so cool if you're just wanting base figures. So what I do is I cut the tabs down to these little bitty, let me put it up, that little peg, and then hey Leth, and then I drill a hole in a base that peg will fit into, and then I glue them onto the base. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. And they will stay there forever. There's the Nerdy Ogre. What's up, Nerdy Ogre? So yeah, this guy's got a pistol. Not super happy with the pistol, though. It looks like there might have been a miscast or something. But that's okay because I have so many pistols and everything else left over from the Gunslinger plastic box sets that if I need to cut that pistol off and actually put, like a big long barreled 44 on. Yep, most of the Southwest was Mexico. So if we're playing a cowboy game or a Deadlands game in the Southwest, Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, you got to have some banditos. I mean, that's just a fact. And also, if the player characters try to flee across the border into Mexico to escape the righteous long arm of the law, then you got to have some Mexicans that are probably going to kill them, for being bad sorts. I mean, Mexico was not a huge fan of American riffraff showing up in their country and, doing stuff. So, yeah. So yeah, that's a thing. You got to have a couple Mexicans. First time you've seen me without a hat? Yeah, and look, my hair where I shaved it, it's at that point where it kind of feels like velvet when I rub my head over it. So, but yeah, if we're playing a game that's shortly after the Civil War, like 1870 something, I mean, yeah, and if it's set in Texas or anywhere in the Southwest, like you're saying, then obviously you got to have some Mexicans. You just got to. It would be like unrealistic not to. I mean, even if they're not Mexican nationals, even if they are American citizens living in Texas, you're still going to have some Mexicans. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, like the movie Barbarossa or something, right? Unfortunately, I could only find one miniature from Reaper of a Mexican with a big sombrero and all that. Sombrero. So that was not cool. Really? Nice. I didn't know that. I really wish I could have got 5 or 6 Mexicanos, like I might have to go to Warlord Games or War Games Atlantic and actually buy some 1860s through 1870s Mexican soldiers. Because I think that would work, to represent the Mexicans, especially if I'm playing old school Deadlands. Because, like I said, Santa Anna, I believe, might be still trying to invade Southern California, which is a Union state. So if the characters are playing Confederates like Texas Rangers, they may not give a shit about it. But if the characters are playing Union guys, they're probably going to care a little bit about it. And also, Santa Anna's forces have been known to invade Texas. So if the player characters are playing Texas Rangers, obviously they're going to have an issue with the Mexican army cruising up through freaking, El Paso. At which point they got to bring their big iron and handle it, right? But yep, the ladies are out visiting my uncle, my mom's brother, obviously. They wanted to go do that, and then afterwards they're going to hit up all the lady stores they hit up, so like Bell's Outlet and stuff like that. Hungar is laying in the room because he wasn't feeling good, which is why I didn't go with the ladies to visit my uncle. It's the uncle I go to the range with that I absolutely have the fondest of emotions for. He's just a good guy, and he's the one that always invites us out to dinner on Fridays. He does this family dinner thing where like everyone in the family's invited. You don't even got to call and say you're showing up, because they always cook so much damn food that no matter how many people show up, there's going to be enough food for everybody. Like the one time we went over there and they had done a low country boil with like, potatoes and sausage and shrimp and crawfish and andouille, and they'd done the whole thing. So that was pretty nice. They're just like that, they're both retired, so they're just like Spain, France, Mexico, the Union, the Confederacy, and Texas national flags. Yeah. Bear. Yet. That sounds like Fort Augustine here in Florida. If you ever go to like St. Augustine, where the fort is, it has a list of like all the nations that had controlled it throughout the history of the fort. And it's like Spain, England, France, I don't think the Dutch, but then the Confederacy, the Union, etc. And it's also, I think, if I remember correctly, Fort Augustine is where they eventually imprisoned Geronimo when they caught him. Which a lot of people will be like, I can't believe they imprisoned Geronimo. It's like, Geronimo was a rapist. He was a murderer. He was a horrible person, right? And even the other natives hated him and his whole tribe. I mean, the Apache were considered to be like the scumbags of the Southwest. Everyone in the Southwest hated him. Like the Navajo, even the freaking Comanche at one point were like, we're going to wipe out these freaking Apache. They tried to commit genocide on the Apache. That's how much they hated them, because the Apache were truly the scumbags of the Southwest. They were terrible. They were robbers and murderers and rapists and slavers and like all the worst things you can think of any group of people doing. That's what Apaches did. And they were doing it before the white man showed up. They were just pure assholes. And eventually Geronimo got caught, and if I remember correctly, they moved him to Florida, and that's where he ended his days, in Florida. Oh, you know what? I put this in, and then I didn't even hit the button to make it go. I'm such a noob. So I got a present from my dad. I'm assuming this is for Christmas. It is a lithium-powered pin vise set. and it has like a ton of like drills and Dremel heads and like all the stuff. I haven't actually opened it up, but when it comes to, if this thing is cool, and I have no reason to suspect it won't be, then and when it comes to drilling out holes for whatever, this should make it a lot easier. Yo, yo, yo. Leth, being all like, yo, Leth. What up, homie? How you doing? How you doing, Leth? Get that on here. How you doing, Leth?
Oh, good. I got my Christmas gift from my grandma.
Oh, yeah?
$200.
A bottle of rum.
No, just $200.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the easiest thing. That's what I give my oldest daughter every year. Because, I mean, she's the one with the 4 kids. So I'm always like,
Well, for me, that's
how about I just give you some money and you can like I don't give it to her for Christmas. I give it to her like a couple weeks before at least.
Yeah, this one's probably been the earliest I got it. So there's that.
And I'm all like, you just go ahead. Hey, Squirrel, how you doing, bro? And I'm like, you just go ahead and buy whatever it is you feel like your kids will like.
I'll basically be able to get myself. That's almost enough for me to get my red dot sight that I wanted.
Nice. Oh, look at this. It's got a little red button on it. It locks, but if you want to open it, you hit the red button and it pops open.
Neat.
And then there's the whole kit. And of course, there's a mini USB there to charge it. Damn, nice. that's aluminum.
That's good.
That's pretty well made. And then it's got all kinds of different like drill bits and stuff like that. So, I mean, as a craft, and it's magnetic. Huh. So for crafting and stuff, this is going to be really good.
Yeah.
This is a pretty
crafting
decent.
Or repairing something, working on something.
Well, the thing is, I'm always drilling holes to like put posts in miniatures to make them. When I glue them together, they're a lot more solid if they've got a wire.
Oh, I thought that was more. Is that just like for a small drill or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought
but
it was
can be used for Dremels too.
Yeah.
And then in this special little bag is the charger. And it's a USB to mini USB. So that's cool. I can actually plug it into my computer and charge it.
Oh, man. I wish I had USB-C to USB because that's what I needed for my phone.
Yeah. So, nice.
Annoying.
Nice.
I can only charge my phone through a wall socket right now.
Which I asked him about the 300 blackout magazines, and he's swearing up and down he didn't do it. But I don't know if I believe him. You know what I mean? Because
is it hard to get those?
My pops can be a bit of a trickster. And I'm like, why would you get me 300 blackout specific magazines? 300 blackout uses standard.
Hey, he's in the.
I see him. It uses standard magazines for 5.56. So what would the 300 the specific magazines, is that like better in some way? But apparently somebody thinks they are. So okay, fine, whatever.
Hello.
Hello. What is up, big dog?
Just looking over my Christmas present.
What is your Christmas present? Ooh.
What? Let me see. Yay.
It's a book from a version of AD&D that
also
has huge number of like fanatical fans. Because it's like no one is like indifferent to riffs. They either love it or hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you
That's why I
mention
took
riffs, and people are either like, "Oh, I love riffs," or they're like, "Oh, nah, I hate riffs, man. That shit sucks." It's like no one's indifferent at all.
Oh, yay.
Well, I tell people there are two types of people in this world. There are those who love riffs, and those who aren't willing to admit that they love riffs.
I think
And by
I
riffs, I mean
like
Palladium.
the idea of riffs, but like
I never
I
tried
did
it, so I don't know.
and it's easy enough to play. Like I did with Talislanta, that's how I think you would have to do with riffs.
Come on, I just want
What's I haven't seen what you've done with Talislanta.
Is my phone in here?
That sounds familiar.
Oh, it's in my pocket. You hear that? My wife picked that out too. Because she hated the Hello Moto thing.
Hello, Moto. Hello, Moto.
Hello Moto. And she's like, no.
But the biggest problem, the biggest problem with Palladium is how they have the book laid out.
Well, I mean, when
It
I had
causes some
second edition
confusion.
Palladium Fantasy, it was really easy to see that it was old school. Just by the layout. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, this is old school. This is 80s. This is how, people used to do things. There's better ways to do it now. But I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying you could tell that it was an old school game.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Talislanta is as old school as you get. It came out in like the early 80s. Still
That's
around.
pretty old.
Still doing its thing. Like
RuneQuest is from the 70s.
I think RuneQuest is from the very late 70s, though.
Yeah, late 70s, but still, it was like the third RPG to ever come out.
Well, mainly because the guy who played it was in the SCA.
Yeah.
And he liked AD&D, but he felt like AD&D didn't capture combat the way he wanted it. So he made RuneQuest. Now, did it do what he wanted it to do? I don't know. I don't think it really captured combat any better than AD&D did, honestly. But, as long as he's happy.
Yeah.
Then good for him,
I can never remember which version of D&D that Palladium is.
AD&D first.
AD&D first. Yeah, I can never remember for some reason. I don't know. Maybe because I've never played it. I didn't get into the hobby until 3rd edition.
Yeah, homeboy who created not RuneQuest, but RuneQuest and Palladium. They were both AD&D players, and you could say that not RuneQuest, but that Palladium is basically just the house rules.
Yeah.
Of the guy who made it. Like he was playing D&D, and he was like,
he's like,
here's a bunch of house rules and whatever.
Yeah, even Kevin will admit it that's what it started out as.
Yeah, Symbiotic. It was just house rules.
Yeah, it was just.
And then when he had a ton of house rules, he's like, "Well, I've got enough house rules that
like I can make an actual game, man."
It has become. Well, that's how OSC came to exist. The guy who did Old School Essentials, that was all his house rules for his home game.
Yeah.
And then one day he took a big look at the gigantic folder of house rules he had, and he was like,
I got more house rules than I do actual rules.
Maybe I should just print this thing up. And he did, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And then RuneQuest, as we all know, the guy was a huge SCA guy. And he just wanted a combat system that more reflected the give and take of real combat.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like the what's it called? The kind of abstract nature of combat in D&D.
Yeah.
You want something that made combat a lot more specific. And
Well,
so, RuneQuest. All good games. I mean, anybody that says any of those games suck is like, no. They don't suck. They may not be your particular cup of tea, like, but they don't suck. They're good games. And a lot of people love them. And they're good games by the fact that they have stood the test of time.
Right.
I mean, they're still around. I mean, there's been tons and tons of bad games, and they're gone. Yeah. Like, no one around you is talking about playing Pirates and Privateers or
if the game truly sucks, it's not going to last. Just like any product out there, if it really truly sucks, it's not going to last.
Yeah, if it doesn't really grab a market, then it's just going to be whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing with RuneQuest and Palladium is they did truly grab a market. And good for them, in my opinion.
I think one of Palladium's biggest selling point is that, it started in, 85, 86, mid to late 80s. It's still around today. It only has 2 editions, and the second edition is compatible with the first edition. So you didn't have to go out and buy everything new again.
Yeah, Palladium has been around a long ass time because I remember being in my late teens before I joined the army and going to the Cosima Comics, and there were like Palladium books there. I remember that specifically. And I also remember when I got out of the army buying the box set that had the 2 Vikings on it, which was RuneQuest, like second edition, I guess. It had like the male Viking and the female Viking, and they're standing like on a rune, like a rubble-strewn hilltop, and they had their shields and swords out.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the character sheets with all the hit locations and the armor boxes, and I was like, what in the hell is this even? But, I mean, it was fun, and we did play it for a while. We did play RuneQuest for a while. And a lot of people enjoyed it, and some people did not because they want the combat to be a lot more abstract. They don't want to worry about hit locations and what armor you're wearing in exactly what spot, that sort of thing. Now, in my opinion, and feel free to cut in if you got anything to say, but in my opinion, Talislanta is kind of like the best of both worlds because it's kind of skill based, but the combat can be as specific or as abstract as you need it to be. Like, it just depends. Your character can say that they're going to do a specific thing and aim at somebody's leg and then make that roll and hit the leg. And if there's no armor on the leg, then the person's taking full damage on the leg. Or they could just be like, I'm attacking the guy, whatever,
Fair. So it has a called shot system.
It has a called shot system. It has various levels of success. So if you're attacking somebody and your total is between 10 and 15, that's partial success. And that means that you hit them, but you only do half damage. And then if you go like 16 to 19 or 15 to 19, whatever it is, I'm remembering in my head, then that's full damage. And if you roll a 20, then that's critical hit. And that can be like double damage. So, but there's all kinds of maneuvers too. Like if you swing at somebody, depending on what they're doing, they can say, I'm going to dodge. And then it becomes a contested roll. And if they beat you, then, they dodged your attack. And that's just that.
That's the way Palladium is. In the Palladium system, it's automatically assumed that when you roll for an attack, you're going for center mass, which
Right.
when you're in a fight, that's where you target because that's where the majority of the vital organs are, with the exception of the brain. All your vital organs are in the torso.
That is a modern take. It's not correct. In actual medieval combat, archaeologists have found that almost 9 out of 10 blows were to the head.
Well,
Which is why people wore such big ass helmets and shit. Because if you're standing there with a shield in front of you, you can't see center mass. You see his head.
right. Yeah, you gotta go over. But
And
yeah, but I mean,
AD&D,
but-
they had the rule that if your character wasn't wearing a helmet, any intelligent monster most of the time would swing at your head, and they would get a penalty to hit, but your armor class was 10, which is the worst that it could be. So
that's the way it is.
actually, in effect, they actually would have an easier time hitting you than if you were wearing plate mail. You know what I mean? Smack you in the freaking skull, right?
Right.
But yeah, and Palladium does.
But yeah, it's assumed that unless you make a called shot to the head or a limb or whatever,
you're going for a body shot, basically.
Yeah,
makes sense.
See, in modern games, that's the assumption always.
Yeah, which I mean makes sense. I mean,
like if you're playing Twilight 2000, you assume you're always aiming center mass because that's every military in the world.
Well, again, like I said, that's where the majority of the vital organs are.
Majority of the vital organs and the biggest target.
It's the biggest target, which is really, hey, GM Cody, what's up? GM Cody backs me up. Yeah. Well, I used to be an SCA fighter, and I can tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, when I got hit, it would be upside the damn head. Somebody would come in, they would get past the defense, I would be a little slow, and I would catch one like right there. Yeah. Now, luckily, I had a big, Scandinavian stuff Spangen helm. It was made out of like 16 gauge steel with a full front and everything. So, I mean, it didn't hurt. It was padded and everything. But yeah, you'd always get every now and then, like maybe 20% of the time somebody catch you in a rib cage or maybe hit you in the collarbone area. But that just all depended. But most of the time, they'd be laying lumber right up on that head. And but that's just the way Dark Age combat was,
Right? Yeah. And
it's like, language that 50% of the time they hit.
And of course, I'm not talking.
The penalty was like -6, I think, for a called shot to the head. It was either -6 or -8. So basically, they're attacking an armor class of 18, which means if your character has plate mail and a shield, but not a helmet, you are basically attacking an 18 instead of a 0. Or not an 18. You're attacking a 2 instead of a 0. Let's do THACO. And that's 10% more likely to hit. So, I mean, the message of the day is if you're going to be a heavy fighter in the front ranks with plate mail and a shield, wear a helmet.
Yeah.
The negative is if you're wearing a helmet, then you get a huge penalty to like hearing checks and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I can tell you that's a fact, having worn a big Spangen helm with an Aventel and all that, it's really hard to hear anything.
Have somebody else be the perception guy. Have them point you to the danger.
That's what the thief is for. Yeah. That's what the whole point of the thief is, to be like the guy listening out for like the goblins or orcs or whatever they're sneaking up behind you. That's his job.
Yeah. And I mean, let's be realistic. If in reality, you're not going to be wearing full plate armor unless you're specifically going to battle.
Yeah.
You're not going to ride around the countryside in full plate armor.
Ironman says there are no called shots in 1E. I would have to bust out my DMG to look into that, because I believe the called shots thing is specifically under the helmet rule. And I'm pretty sure that's in the DMG. They talk about if you don't wear a helmet, intelligent monsters will try and smack you in the skull. As they would. I mean, an orc, if he sees you wearing all this heavy armor and no helmet, he's going for that dome, you know? I mean, of course he is. Why wouldn't he? If you have a shield, I guess you won't use it to protect your head.
You could.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised.
It's probably hard to do it. Usually,
it's like this. Let's say when I fought, if I tried to go defense, no, I'd never lift my shield. I would take my sword and put it at an angle, and then my shield, I would lift just a little bit and do this, right?
Yeah.
And basically, it forms a tent over my helmet. And that's how you block, because the objective is to move the smallest amount possible while blocking the biggest amount possible, right?
Yep. Again, the biggest disadvantage for the axe and shield that I still like, but I don't think it's as good.
So, yeah, you can try to use a shield to block your head, but
then you're going to leave other things vulnerable too, and have to move your shield more.
Well, yeah, like when I was training to be a fighter, my knight, he talked about like the 6 doors. You divide your opponent or yourself right down the midline and then up, middle, low. And that's the 6 doors. And then you have to learn how to block the doors while moving the slowest or the smallest amount possible. And then you have to look at your opponent and try to figure out how to open the doors. You know what I mean? So there's a whole skill to fighting, heavy fighting, which is what we're doing. The idea of the SCA is supposed to be like early medieval, late dark ages. You're wearing like full coats of mail. You've got big ass Norman style helmets or Spangen helms or whatever. You know, you got your shields, and you can use a lot of different types of shields. I used a kite shield, the round topped ones that were really long and pointed. Yeah, that's what I used as a kite shield, just because I like the look of it. And I used a stick that had a 36-inch blade, which would be like a broadsword or a longsword.
I would think that the message of the day is take a spellcasting class.
Not always.
Well, yeah, everyone else is there to be like listening. If you've got, because your typical warrior in plate mail, you would have the padded coif you put on, then sometimes a chainmail coif, and then the damn helmet. So yeah, you're not, really going to hear a whole lot through that. And even though my helmet was mostly open, I mean, it had bars. So, it wasn't like a fully enclosed sugar loaf. Even your vision's not great. A lot of times when you're fighting in SCA, it's about feeling where your opponent is. They call it something awareness, combat awareness or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's about like, maybe you don't see them, but you feel them. You know they're there. Yeah, see, I would call that a called shot. But if you don't want to call it a called shot, you don't have to. But it is telling you that intelligence opponents 50% of the time are going to swat you in the head if you're not wearing a helmet. Okay, I mean, we can both say we were wrong, or Arn Man, better still, we can both say we were right. That way, we both kind of seem like we know what we're talking about.
Hey.
You were either both kind of wrong where you were both mostly right.
Or
Right.
technically right, which is the best kind of right.
Technically right, which is the best kind.
Technically
of right.
speaking.
Yeah, we were both right. Maybe we could argue that terminology was not specifically, whatever, but I mean, that's obviously a called shot. It's saying guy ain't got a helmet, intelligent monster has X amount of chance of aiming at that head. That's obviously saying that the monster is going to take a called shot to the skull. But, I mean, AD&D First Edition, which is, I think, probably one of the best editions of TSR D&D, it has most of the stuff people talk about being in Second Edition. It's just hidden. It's like people will say, well, Second Edition added Thaco. And it's like, well, it didn't, though. Thaco is in First Edition in the DMG. They specifically talk about it. Yeah. Yeah, see, I remembered that rule. That's the thing. Even though it's been a little while since I've read the AD&D book, sometimes, and sometimes only, guys, my memory actually works. And I do remember things. I mean, sometimes it works wrong and I remember things completely the wrong way. But occasionally, every now and then, it works. And I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, I remember that, right? And scroll over. Nope, wrong.
Sadly for me, I'll just remember the most weird things that you shouldn't remember for no apparent reason.
Right. Probably because they're so weird that you're like,
Did that really happen?
it like sticks in your brain because it's like, that is really strange. Why would that ever be a thing?
Why would I do that?
But yeah.
Yeah, my brain works the same way. It's like I can't remember the password I used on the app that I downloaded yesterday. But by golly, I can remember that embarrassing thing that I said to that chick in the 9th grade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We've all been there, bro. I'm the same way. I might not remember, some shit that happened yesterday, but I'll remember some obscure fact from a role-playing game I haven't played since 85. It's like, it's just the human memory is strange. It's a weird little chain of chemicals in your brain doing whatever it wants to do. That's what a memory is. It's a chain of chemicals. And when you go to remember something, your brain scours through yourself, finds those chemicals, smells them, technically, kind of, and that creates the memory. That allows you to remember the thing, which means the idea that somebody could extract those memories and put them somewhere else is plausible.
Well, soon we might be able to digitize our memories.
Yeah, in theory, they say that there's an AI program that if you talk to it for 3 hours, it will completely memorize and be able to copy your personality. So that is, if somebody were to talk to that AI in 100 years, it could respond like it was you. Which to me is scary as shit, but hey, whatever.
Well, you chance at immortality.
Yeah, it's weird.
But it begs the question, what makes you you?
Yeah, exactly. You would think it would be your experiences and all the things you've done, but now it's like,
I say the soul because there's been plenty of people who say that they've actually died and saw themselves outside their own body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. I don't know, but it's use an incredibly embarrassing password, he says. Nerdy
use,
ogre.
use an incredibly embarrassing password.
Like, I don't know, donkey balls or dog nuts or, you know, I don't know what would be incredibly embarrassing, but
Grandmama's panties.
grandma's panties.
Naked grandma.
It's like, have you ever like sat and tried to think real hard about a brick wall or something while you're having sex so that you wouldn't let loose too soon? It's like that. You know, because you're trying to take your mind off of everything so that you can keep going. Yeah. I wonder, you got to ask yourself this too. Why is it that when a man climaxes, they can get a woman pregnant, right? But a woman can get pregnant without ever having an orgasm. It's like nature was basically trying to tell somebody something. You know, like your orgasm is completely unimportant to the survival of the species. Whereas we have to have one, otherwise there will not be a survival of the species. See, that's the embarrassing kind of shit you can think about. Yeah.
This is not exactly where I thought this conversation was ever going to go. But
Because I tuck it somewhere really weird there for a minute.
Well, I had a conversation with somebody once, and with the cloning technology now, if all the men,
dang it,
everybody who has male DNA were to just vanish off the face of the earth,
I just thought about this.
the human race would be screwed.
Yeah.
Even with cloning, you know, you got the old Xerox. Eventually, you're going to have, you know, cloning deterioration. However, if you reverse it and all the women were to disappear off the face of the earth, the human race has a chance, because women are all women. They got what, the 2 Y chromosomes?
Yeah, whatever.
Whereas men have the XY chromosome. So it is possible to take a Y chromosome from one guy and a Y chromosome from another guy, splice those two together, and produce a female clone.
Well, if you're cloning, I mean, why do you even care?
Well, you got the degeneration. You know, you remember back in the day with the Xerox, you'd take a Xerox, you'd copy, you know,
I
you'd
remember
Xerox
the
the
movie
paper,
Green
then you'd
Felicity.
Xerox the Xerox, and eventually the ink would be faded.
Or was it
It's the same
multiplicity?
theory with the DNA. You can only clone the same DNA so many times before it goes down.
Well, I just thought about something too now.
Oh,
Clone
geez.
Shepard from Mass Effect 3 would actually be physically possible then.
Say
That
again?
was the weirdest. Clone Shepard from Mass Effect 3 is actually possible within the story. I always thought that was a
every
little bit
other thing they
outlandish.
have, I mean,
I don't know Mass Effect, so
cloning Shepard, that's like the least of the issues going on in that setting.
I know, but that one was weird. I just realized that, hey, actually, this isn't as far-fetched as I thought it was.
Well, I believe I remember reading that the Japanese were trying to work on artificial wombs so that they can just, I guess, make people.
Well, I know in the late 90s, they did an experiment, and they had a male baboon carry carry a fetus to term. I mean, naturally, they had to, had to do a C-section.
Wouldn't that be embarrassing to be the guy who was born from a baboon?
Well, I'm sure it was a baboon fetus.
We're getting to like 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger movie territory here.
Yeah, twins.
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah,
well, I
one
mean,
man and 100 women on an island. Over time, you're going to end up with a civilization. If you reverse that, then you're going to end up with a war, and then everyone will die. Eventually, someone will get mad because they can't have the woman, and they'll go ahead and just kill her out of spite.
Yeah, that's actually a Fallout experiment.
Yeah, just despite all the other man, some really weak man will take the woman out just to be like, ha ha.
I'm not lying. There was like a story about Vault-Tec making two different vaults. One that was one man, 99 women, and one woman, 99 men.
So
Yeah, you can see where that's going.
yeah, that wouldn't be good. That would be a bad place. That would be a good thing. But yeah, Palladium has always, getting back to the Palladium thing. Palladium has always had its super strong like followers. So even though I joke around with you and talk about Palladium sucking, I
yeah,
mean, statistically speaking, it can't actually suck, because if it did suck, it wouldn't have the wild following that it has. I mean, it
right.
just wouldn't make sense. And the same with RuneQuest. It's just, what are you looking for in a game? Also, a big problem is that D&D is like because it was the first game, it's the game everyone thinks about.
Yeah, it's like
So,
Q-tips and Coke and
right. And I've
peanuts.
even caught myself doing this and said, I need to stop doing this. Like calling games that are not D&D, D&D. Because it's like you're actually kind of doing a disservice to the game you're talking about.
Yeah,
Like, don't call Talislanta D&D. It's not D&D. It uses an entirely different system. It's on an entirely different setting. Like, everything about it is very, very different than D&D. But I know that I probably have, and many people probably have in the past, been like, D&D.
and most people who are in the hobby, it's like I tell them, it's like, hey, I'm gonna, I play, it's like I play Palladium. Well, what's that? It's like,
Right.
well, have you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah. Well, it's that except cooler.
Right.
But yeah, but I mean, it's like D&D is the mainstream. That's what people are going to recognize.
Yeah. Like you said, it's like Q-tips and freaking all that stuff. It's just the thing that everyone knows. And it's a little unfortunate, actually, because honestly, I mean, AD&D is my favorite TSR game, but I'm a huge fan of like Star Frontiers, Second Edition, Gamma World. And of course, way back in the day, no lie, I was a game design workshop guy. Like, game designer workshop. I bought like Traveler, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Freaking pretty much any game they made, I bought.
That's weird because there was a cartoon called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Was there?
Yes. I
Huh.
think it was in the late 80s, early 90s.
Huh. Well, that would be about the right time. Like,
I
to
think it
this
was based
day,
off
one
that.
of Hungar's favorite games is Dark Conspiracy.
Well, I'm going to have to bounce on out of here.
Okay.
All right.
It's been great talking with you guys.
Oh, always a pleasure, sir.
And thanks for having me on, and see y'all later.
See you later, man.
Apparently there was also a video game. Not what I was looking for.
Was there?
Yeah, 1993 video game and then a 93-94 television series.
Huh. Yeah, I guess it's about time travel and shit or something. I don't.
I
remember.
wasn't
But,
exactly sure. No, post-apocalyptic jungle in the ruins of New York
so the
City.
dinosaurs come back after some kind of nuclear war.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you're cruising around in the
In a Cadillac.
post-apocalyptic world trying not to get ate by
Dinosaurs.
T-Rexes and whatever.
You're cruising around in a really cool Cadillac.
Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was like what it made it look like was like some kind of 1950s Cadillac, I think.
Like an Eldorado or something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and plus GDW put out like just so many great war games with like the Assault series and all this and that, where you use little paper chits and moved them around a hex map and fought out different battles or battles that thankfully never happened, because Assault was a what if World War III like in the 80s. So it was like, what if the Soviet Union come across the Fulda Gap into Germany in 1980 something? And one thing I really liked about Assault is it was kind of like a squad based game. So a vehicle was one vehicle, and then a chit that represented an infantryman was like a squad of infantrymen. So you'd need like 4 squads of infantrymen to represent a platoon, and then depending on your nation, you might need 12 chits to represent a company. And
That's neat.
so it was a much smaller scale. Like one hex equaled like 50 or 100 yards or something. So, but they had the grand strategic games too, where it would be like the whole map of like all of Europe, and like one hex would be like hundreds of miles, and
Yeah.
and every chit was like at least a brigade or division or whatever, and then you would be like, you could play that too. But those games, man, those were not games for the weak at heart. Those were games for people who were truly lovers of war games and did not mind sitting down on a weekend and playing a game for like 8 hours straight. Maybe you might take some breaks, but yeah, you're going to be there a while, and yeah, like the one game we played, it was basically again World War III, and there was the option to like tack nuke your opponent. So you kind of had to spread your armies out, because if you try to cluster them all up and somebody tack nuke the shit out of a cluster of your guys, they could just take out like a shit ton of your military.
You don't want to try a death ball, huh?
Yeah, so you would have to everybody would have to be spread out and roaming about doing their thing, and the German military sucked balls. If it weren't for the Americans, that war would be over quick. Which I think is pretty much how it is in real life. So
yeah.
It's
not like they're like World War II Germany.
No, I think all of the greatest warriors, etc., of Germany died in World War II.
Yeah.
They all died on the Eastern Front.
There was that one time where, there was like this whole big army group center, and then it disappeared.
Yep. And then what's left is like, I don't know, douchebags and, maybe whatever, cowards that refused to go or for some reason couldn't go,
Basically the sick, weak, and old.
The sick, weak, and old. Exactly. That's who the society ended up getting made from. The sick, weak, and old. Unfortunately, the same thing happened with Russia too. I mean, Russia, everybody used to think of like the endless horde of Russians. It's like, yeah, America's got 3 times the population of Russia. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
They've got under 200 million people in the whole damn country. We've got 4, so we've got twice basically about.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe if they didn't just endlessly sacrifice all their people in a war.
Well, they did it in World War II.
Smarter.
They're not doing it in the current war. They're
No.
being very, very
Careful.
They're being very, very machine-like.
Yeah.
It's like every move they're making, they're being very like, okay, what are we going to get if we do this thing? Like, they're not human waving anything. If you actually watch the war footage, most of the Russian gains prior to very recently would be like 6 or 7 guys that they would infiltrate into, you know, tree lines and shit, and then they would take out a Ukrainian bunker system or something, and then they would move up, like, and they were measuring their gains in like yards. You know, it'd be like, today the Russians gained 12 yards or some shit, you know. But
just inching their way along.
Yeah, since the Ukrainian military has basically collapsed now.
So actually, Russia was playing grit, basically.
Yeah, they were playing, because here's the thing: the Russians knew.
Though you wouldn't get that either because you never played Advanced Wars. Dang.
The Russians knew that they had more artillery rounds, more everything like that. So they went into the war of attrition, except they did not just needlessly sacrifice men because they didn't have to. Whereas the Ukrainians had to. And over time, it just put the Ukrainians in a position where they just lost so many men. It's really sad, honestly.
Yeah.
And now you see that the Ukrainian lines have basically collapsed. The Russians have went from these little incremental gains here and there to just straight out cavalry charges. Of course, not on horseback, T-90 tanks, but
Yeah.
But still, you know, basically instead of gaining 20 yards, you know, now they're gaining like hundreds of yards.
Yeah.
And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what point of view you are, there's not too much Ukrainians can do about it.
Hopefully
really,
there'll be a peace deal soon. That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping for the peace deal soon, but here's the problem with the peace deal. The Russians have all the cards.
Yeah, I know.
Because we're going to ask them to stop doing what they're doing. They're winning.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be able to offer them to get them to stop winning? You know, it's like winning. And, you know, plus the Ukrainians are still acting like it. Well, Zelensky, not Ukrainian, Zelensky. You know, the only way to do this is we've got to have a just and whatever peace. And Boris Johnson admitted on a talk show that this was a proxy war, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, if England's admitting this is a proxy war and they're just using the Ukrainians to fight, at that point, what's to stop the Russians from just nuking the shit out of England? And being like, oh, you want to play warfare UK? Let's do it. And would we even get involved? That's the other big question. I mean, I think we're supposed to, but would we?
Oh, man.
Like
if UK wants to make it a war, it's on them. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't want to be involved. But it's like, hey, you know, you have antagonized the Russians to the point that they've just deleted London. Do we really want to be a part of this? I mean, I don't know. This is like a doomsday scenario here.
Well, here's the thing:
And
has
it didn't have to happen.
has the UK ever kept up their part in the NATO?
I don't know. I know they're our special
think so.
ally, but are we willing to risk getting major cities nuked for them? Especially when they're the ones that are egging on this bullshit? I don't think so.
Yeah.
OSC is a modern great, and I love running OSC Advanced, but I always keep my AD&D DMG at the table. And the reason is there are so many wonderful charts in the AD&D DMG that you can't find anywhere else. Like, where else can you find a chart that tells you how many strumpets, whores, and sluts will be hanging out on a street corner at night? AD&D First Edition, obviously. I mean, they're letting you know, right? And
I'm pretty sure you can make something like that.
OSC ain't got these charts. OSC ain't going to tell you the magical uses of certain gemstones and herbs. AD&D will. So you use both, you know?
Yeah.
And if you really want to be like me, which I don't see why anyone would, you also keep the Osric second edition or second printing book on the table, so that if you run into any rules that you don't quite understand, you just use whatever's in Osric. Like, you know, like who actually uses hand-to-hand combat from AD&D First Edition or all the segment bullshit for initiative? Nobody. It's just a lot easier to just use basic D&D or Osric or anything else. I'm not even sure what Gary was thinking, if I can be so bold as to call him by his first name. I don't know what he was thinking when he come up with the rules for grappling. Those rules are insane. They're like, what is going on here? You know?
Yeah.
You got like a 10% chance to knock your opponent out, or, you know, choke him to death or whatever. And it's just like, these rules are complicated just for the sake of being really complicated. You know, they don't make the game better. They're just really complicated. Yeah, Judges Guild used to do some great stuff. There's some books you can get on Amazon now. They're like 1,000 charts for sci-fi, 1,000 whatever for fantasy. And there's like, you know, there'll be a table and it'll be like random room or random area in spaceship or whatever. And then, you know, you just
roll on a random table to figure out what's in it.
Yeah, you just roll on the table and it'll tell you what's in it.
Fair
So,
enough.
I mean, in that way, it's absolutely awesome, you know? If that's the thing you're looking for, they got it.
Well, we had our game last Sunday.
Yeah, you said you were going to, and you said that your cleric was going to tell the rest of the players they need to quit jerking around and go do something.
Which, well, we're planning on it next session.
Okay, so you got them on board.
Yeah. One thing is, our artificer wanted to stay and work on something, but now he realized he really can't because of all the emergency repairs that the town needs.
Right.
They need all the materials they can to repair all the damage that happened.
I'll tell you what, when I played D&D online, and I played on the server that starts with O in the name, I had an artificer. I loved that character.
That's fair.
I absolutely loved that character. That was such. I mean, it was
I
like
never gave D&D online a great chance. I tried it a little bit.
right.
My first character, I decided to make the goofiest character I could, so I played a tiefling cleric that was worshiping the goddess of love
Right.
because it was stupid and I found it funny.
Yeah, I had a buddy. He only plays littles. So, like, I'm running around with this guy and
I
I'm
mean,
playing my artificer and I've got my like robot dog and my, machine gun crossbow, right?
yeah.
And he's playing like a halfling monk. And I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
Could you see this like big evil looking just like dude going around trying to spread love to people? He's like, yeah, the goddess of love, isn't it great?
Yeah.
You need a marriage? I can do that.
And my wifey played a human cleric because she always does.
Yeah, fair.
I think that the H to H rules may have been written convoluted. Yeah, they are freaking like, it's like, really? What are you doing?
Although, one thing, our group in that D&D game did do something cool and fun before we left.
Well, that's good that at least you got to do something cool and fun. That's the whole point of D&D.
We had basically an impromptu concert to try to make some money.
Okay. Are you guys a bunch of bards or did you guys just decide, F it, we're going to...
There was one bard and a couple of us knew how to play instruments, so we just joined in, and then we had magic users actually cast magic spells to spy, to dazzle the crowd,
enhance the crowd, the show.
Yeah, like
well,
somebody
cool.
used
I mean,
produced
if you had like an illusionist on hand, they could be doing all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, I used thaumaturgy to change the color of the flames to purple.
Everybody's like, dude, you should have been there at the Pink whatever concert, whatever your group has called.
I don't even think we have
like it's the greatest concert of all time. Maybe you guys shouldn't play D&D. You should play like Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk.
Because in Cyberpunk, you can actually play a rocker.
Yeah, I
like
know.
A rocker boy.
It'd be like
and that can be your class. You're actually a guy trying to make it big. As
you'd be like Johnny Silverhand. You'd be like Johnny Silverhand, just be like a colossal jerk and think everything's just about you, and in all reality, you're just some peon nobody cared about.
Right. And yeah, those hand-to-hand combat rules. And here's the thing: there are some games that get it right. Like I think Baptism of Flame gets it right. If you try to unarmed attack a guy in armor with a sword, you get such a huge penalty to your attack. Because, I mean, really, you're going to run up on a guy in plate mail or heavy armor and try and punch him, and him wearing a helmet with a sword? No, he's going to kill your ass. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean,
as fun as it is to be a monk,
the idea of the monk in D&D is so dumb. Because it's like, I'm going to run up and kung fu kick a guy in plate armor with a shield. Yeah, he's going to cut your leg off, is what's going to happen. And then he's going to laugh while you're laying on the ground bleeding out.
Yeah.
Because, while kung fu might be great for tournaments and shit, unarmed combat is not super great for fighting wars. It just really isn't. Even when the Shaolin had their uprising against the government of China, they were using swords and bows and shit. They weren't running around trying to, tiger style some freaking body.
No drunken,
crazy,
drunken boxing is going to save you there.
Yeah, no drunken boxing is going to save you when somebody runs up with a halberd and stabs you in the chest. I mean, you're just going to be a dead person. And the main object of warfare is to not be a dead person. You want to be a living person
Well, I
at
mean,
the end of it all.
there
And
are monks that do use weapons.
yeah, all the Shaolin
Swordsmanship.
monks do. They use the long sword. They use the crescent blade. They
Samurai were actually mostly probably famous for, at least in historical terms, bowmanship.
Yep, they were originally horse archers.
Yeah, they were actually a lot like the Mongols in that sense.
Yep, that was originally their whole deal, was being really good horse archers, and then later on during the Warring States period, samurai would mostly use spears anyway. Yari.
Spears, eventually guns, because that became very popular.
Well, I mean, yeah, when guns started being a thing, but
that
I'm
was
just
in
saying
Goku Jidai.
before we showed up to introduce firearms
Yeah.
and shit, they would be running around with Yari,
Naginatas and stuff like
always
that.
have a roster of characters in OSE. Yep. Henchmen's and yep, that is great advice, Squirrel Hermit, and something that I do and strongly agree with, my good sir. As a matter of fact, I made characters for Talislanta. I made like 20 of them. Because at the very beginning of this video, I did a little thing about how easy it is to make Talislanta characters. And the answer is super easy. I mean, you can make a Talislanta character.
Easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience. If you know what you want, you pick the archetype, spend 35 XP on skills, and adjust the attributes by the +3 -1 thing, and write down your gear, and you're done.
Where did I hear that from now?
I mean, that is how easy Talislanta is. It's like, yeah, it's the easiest. It's the easiest, and
oh yeah, okay.
I think that's what makes it so amazing. One of the things that makes it so amazing is that it's just so easy to and if a character dies, it's easy to just pick another one and keep going with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But what I did in the Talislanta game that I'll be running at some point is I made it where all the player characters come from the same kingdom area, the 9 kingdoms. Therefore, they're all automatically allied races. Probably even some of them could know each other from having served in the militia.
Yeah.
Against the subhumans.
I remember where that super easy, barely an inconvenience came from.
Oh, it's that David Ryan.
Screen Rant guy. He's a Screen Rant guy. He did those pitch meetings.
Yeah, those things are hilarious, man.
I know. I remember now.
Yeah, those are hilarious.
What was my favorite one again? Because I had like one that I just really
he's always
liked.
making fun of movies.
I know.
Super
easy, barely an inconvenience.
I'm going to need you to get all the way off my back on this one. Oh, well, let me get off that thing. Like the rider.
Yeah.
Oh, kids are tight. Sir, I really wish you wouldn't use words like that.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? Like,
oh,
he also does another kind of series where it's like the first guy to ever do a thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that one as much, but yeah.
I mean, it's not as good as the original thing, but it's still pretty funny. Like the first guy to ever go swimming in the ocean. It's like, oh, look, those triangle things. What are they? I don't know. And it turns out they're sharks. And it's like those triangle things. Shark fins. That's what they are. Guy gets killed. Yeah, game flow is the most important part of any game. Is no matter what you're doing, being able to just keep the game going. So that, like, no matter what, it's just like, Well, I said it. There's no other way to say it. No matter what is going on, keep the game going. It has to keep going. If the game drags down into a rules argument or some shit like that, then you're already in trouble. It's like, really? Whatever. Nobody needs that kind of shit. You know what I mean? So, like old school D&D says, the game master makes a ruling, and then after the game is over, you can look it up in the book to see if he made the correct ruling or if he should have made some other ruling. And that's good, and that's how OSE is. That's how a lot of games are. And that leads to my favorite rule in D&D, which I've said a billion times. And that is the rule of roll under an attribute to see if you do a thing. That's my favorite game rule for D&D. If somebody's trying to do some shit, you just ask them to roll under an attribute. If they roll under the attribute, then awesome. They did the thing. If they don't roll under the attribute, then they didn't do the thing. It's like the easiest way to do everything, especially because I love also using what's it called? Non-weapon proficiencies from like the Wilderness Survival Guide. And that's how they all work. So if you've got like fire starting, it works off of like wisdom or something. So you just make a wisdom check to see if you can start a fire. But of course, that's not starting a normal fire. That's starting a fire like in the middle of a typhoon, Like the weather sucks and you're like, in
a terrible condition. That's when you use that.
Yeah, you're in a terrible condition. Everything sucks. And so then you roll to see if you can start the fire. But yeah. That's basically that.
Well, good thing I have really high wisdom, so I should be fine.
Like the healing skill is almost a must because it allows for non-magical healing in the game. A person can make a healing check, and if they succeed, they can heal the character one time per day, like die 4 hit points, right? But the problem is it's a wisdom check -4. So, it's not easy, but you can do it. So, it's a good skill to have if your, cleric is maybe not as likely to want to take healing spells all the time or whatever. At least it basically represents the character knowing first aid and binding wounds. Yeah, you're trying to start a fire in the middle of a combat. You're trying to start a fire. I like to use the Hobbit reference, which is you and your party are on the side of a mountain, and it's raining like hell, and everything's wet and soaked. And of course, they call Feely and Keely, I think, to do it because apparently they were the best at starting fires. And, but then luckily, I think Bilbo found the cave, but unluckily, the cave actually led down to Goblin Town. But you guys get what I'm saying, Proficiencies are never supposed to really be rolled during like any action that you would just normally be able to do. You should really only be making players make proficiency checks if they're trying to do shit that they should not, in the normal run of things, be able to do. Because a guy without fire starting would have exactly 0 chance of starting a fire in the middle of a thunderstorm on a narrow pathway wrapping around a mountain with stone giants chucking rocks at each other overhead. That would just not be something that they could do. But
Well, here's
if
something.
they have that proficiency, then that could be something they absolutely could do.
In a
And
dungeon, how do you deal with people searching like after a room's cleared, people searching for items?
what?
Like
What do you
after
mean?
they clear a certain part of a dungeon out, like in a certain room, and they're looking around for certain things, maybe like looking for treasure
Well,
or
whenever I do up a
hidden traps or
dungeon,
something.
I generally know what's in every room.
Okay.
And if they're searching the room, when I'm running AD&D OSC type games, I want them, and Talislanta for that matter, I want the player searching the room to tell me exactly what they're doing.
Fair.
So it's not enough to say I searched the room.
Yeah, I know.
I want to hear a player say, I'm going to look under the bed, or I'm going to go to the north wall and start tapping it with the butt of my dagger to hear if I can find, a hollow spot, or I some people don't like that kind of game, but I'm kind of that way.
I kind of like it. That's how my RuneQuest Ian kind of did it.
Yeah, I'm
Although
kind of that guy.
she's still allowed for randomized loot sometimes. We'll roll luck to see if we find something extra.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, there's been times where I've let my players actually roll the die on the loot table.
Sometimes we'll get some
Like
really
they
weird
killed
stuff, but
something.
then later on it'll start making sense. Like my cousin in one of the like in the catacombs accidentally found like women's underwear.
Geez, I would
Yeah.
be creeped out by that because
It's
it's
like,
just like, how did these get here? I don't want to know the story.
and then we found
I hope
the
the
person
woman
they
is
belonged
okay.
to. Yeah, she technically was and also was not. She had the slight case of undead.
Slight case of the undeads. Well,
Yes. Although
that's
she
almost
wasn't
as bad as a case of the Mondays.
although she wasn't violent, she was just undead.
Yeah, in the Dimwood area of my homebrew game, the characters actually found like a whole village
Yeah.
that was inhabited by intelligent undead. They were skeletons, but they were intelligent because they'd been cursed like hundreds of years before. So even though their village had fallen to ruin and got overgrown mostly, except for what the undead kept, cleared, they still had their living personalities, but they were trapped in their skeletal bodies. So they weren't evil. They were pretty much neutral,
Yeah.
unaligned,
What
whatever.
happened with this woman? She was kind of cursed by a witch who found out that she was sleeping with the woman's husband.
The witch's husband?
Yep.
Well, that is unfortunate.
I guess you could say an occupational hazard, I guess.
Well, only if the woman was a prostitute.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, then that's an occupational hazard because you figure in a D&D world, you don't know who the wife of the John you're sleeping with is. She could be like a powerful wizard or necromancer or whatever. I mean,
In this situation, a witch.
and the next thing you know, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we went to actually cure the woman and found out that the family that did this was all the way over in another place we had to go to, and apparently we found the granddaughter of this woman who who put the curse
See,
on.
that brings up
Who allowed
so
us to
many
help the
questions to
woman.
me, bro.
What?
You went to cure this woman. How do
Yes.
you cure a woman of undead?
Well, this time it was just that we had to kind of first break the curse and then slowly resurrect her in
I'm
a way.
undead. Cure me, please. Wait, what? It's
Ba-
like, how does that
basically,
even work?
basically, she was slowly running away as an undead, and we had to break the curse so that we could technically resurrect her.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sure.
Yeah, this woman was probably in that state for a few hundred years.
Now, I want to know why the witch didn't do something horrible to her husband.
I don't know. She probably did. Who knows? Oh
Right?
yeah, she
Because
did
it's
actually,
like,
because I think the part that she cursed her with was the husband's part.
part.
Not heart, part.
I said part.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I misheard you then.
And I'm wondering, are we talking like Alana Bobbitt part or
Let's just say that he was using that on the lady.
so she cursed him by cutting off her husband's penis?
Yeah, and using that as I guess you could say, fetish to cast a spell.
Damn. That's harsh.
Yes.
See, me guys, I keep my D&D games a lot more like Tolkien-esque and heroic. I mean, there's dark subjects, but man, ain't nobody getting their dick cut off. But hey, whatever's fun, do it. See, this guy is a Reaper Texas Ranger, and you might notice the gray parts on him, and it's because I've removed through surgery his original pistol, which I did not like, and I just, for the fun of it, stuck a repeating rifle in his other hand.
Nice.
It was already open, like it should be holding something.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, we'll give him a freaking Henry repeater or something. That'll make him look more badass.
Yes.
And then this girl, I cut both of her arms off and shaved them off really good. And you can see I've added an arm that's for a rifle because I already have this miniature in metal and she's got like 2 pistols, right? So I'll just do a weapon swap on her, and that way I won't have 2 of the exact same miniature.
Yeah, you can
Because that is what I do. Like, if I don't like the way the miniatures look, I will do weapon
modify
swaps and mod them up and whatever, So
There's
this
places
young
where you can
lady,
get extra
I'm gonna
parts for extra minis.
This young lady will be holding a repeating rifle. So some kind of lever action rifle. So
Dang, I kind of want to go back to that flame campaign sometime.
Well, you got to talk the DM into letting you.
I think I'll have to wait for that one a little bit. My cousin, he's been going back to school.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think he's been going to at least. He's last time I talked to him, he was talking about wanting to, go to a trade school.
Nice. It's a way to do.
Yeah, he wants to, I think, become an electrician.
Hell yeah. Electricians, man, no matter where you are, you're going to get work.
Yeah, and with how I've seen how people wire things up here, he could never do worse than them.
Well, and it's like an electrician, especially if you get up there towards like a journeyman electrician, those guys make a shit ton of money an hour.
Yeah.
And they are in such demand that it's like
I'm just like surprised on how bad the wiring is in every place we bought. Pretty much, it's absurd. I'm like a layman, know nothing about wiring, and I'm sitting here like, how did you even do that?
I one time bought a house, and I've bought multiple houses, but one of the first houses I ever bought, this would be a long, long time ago. I went to rewire it, and it turned into a huge mess. I had to call my pops in to help. but the main wiring in the house was running through the attic, and it was literally like posts with ceramic whatevers, and the wire running along wrapped and then running to the next one and wrapped. It was like bare wire.
Oh God.
Because the house had been built in like 1930, and apparently that's how they did it back then. And I'm just sitting there like thinking, I'm pretty lucky that I haven't burned up and died, because this is some crazy ass shit right here, you know? Like, these guys, I don't know what they're doing, but okay.
Well, for us, it's not even the house were old. It's just the people who were making wiring these things. I don't know how
we
they
had to
felt this way.
rewire the whole house.
Yeah.
We had to pull every bit of wiring out of that house and rewire it.
Like, have you ever watched King of the Hill?
Yes, of course.
You remember that episode where Bill was showing Hank how to mess up his house to make it look real bad, and he would like pull on a chain and it would turn on the microwave?
Right.
We had a real life version of that, just not as absurd. Like, we flipped a switch and it did something that you wouldn't even expect that switch to do. So we were just like, how?
Yeah, this ain't cool. Like, this is not cool. We definitely need to figure this out before we all die in our sleep.
Lucky for us that we weren't going to die. It's just that house. Well, the house would probably still be there. It just fired up so weirdly. It didn't make any sense.
It happens, bro. I mean, if you get into some of these old houses, it's kind of like the old farmhouse I lived in. I went back to see it, recently. And now it has water and electricity and everything. But because the house had been built, 50 years before they added all the other stuff, you could tell that the wiring and the plumbing and everything was like an afterthought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like they did it, but they just rigged it in however they could, because that's just, the way they did, and it's like, damn,
We also had to, we also bought like a little place that used to be a tanning salon in our old hometown.
Yeah.
And we wanted to rent it out. We did something else differently with it. We're basically renting to set up. We have a deal with the people that live there now as a rent to own. But one thing we had to do, just so they would allow people to live there, we had to knock out a little bit of the wall and make one of the rooms bigger, so it would be considered a livable space.
Right. Right.
Because there's a certain size that you have to have for bedrooms.
Right. In Florida, not only does a bedroom have to be a certain size, but there has to be a number of egresses. So that means that you have to have a number of windows, and those windows have to be of a certain size, or else it's no bueno.
Well, lucky for us, we didn't have to do that, because that would have been a little hard where that room was.
Yeah. But you never really run into anything like weird down here anymore, because they have very strict. My house built in 1900, wiring, plumbing, bathroom, kitchen, and furnace were all. Yep, that's how the old farmhouse I grew up in was. Except we didn't have a furnace. We had a kitchen, but the whole house was heated with a wood fire, like an iron stove in the middle of the living room for heating. And then for cooking, we had another iron stove, except this one was really big, and it had a flat top, and it had like an oven compartment and stuff like that, which I think is why my grandma fried everything, because it was just easier to fry everything than to try and bake it or whatever.
Yes,
but I bet you, I don't know if that stove is still in the house, but I'll bet you right now, I'll bet you anything, that big iron stove that was in the kitchen there is probably worth thousands of dollars. I mean, this thing was 6-7 feet across, flat top, and it had like the oven area on the side, and then in the front area there were doors you opened to put the firewood in, you know. So I mean, it was an actual stove but made to burn wood. And yeah, that thing, you probably couldn't even buy something like that now, you know.
Be interesting if you could, but probably be an antique at this point if you found one.
Oh, for sure, man.
Man, though, yesterday we had bacon, eggs, and biscuits for lunch.
For brekkie.
Lunch.
We had sausage and eggs, but I didn't eat any eggs. I just ate sausage.
Oh, the eggs are the best part.
You know, Hungar ate my eggs. So they didn't go to waste. Hungar was like, I'll eat those eggs. I was like, well, knock yourself out, man. I just ate some sausage. And today the wife made sausage gravy, which I haven't ate any of, but you know, my wife makes really good sausage gravy, mostly because she uses like a whole damn tube of sausage. So it's not, you know how some people, when they make sausage gravy, it's like basically sausage grease and little bits of sausage and then gravy. For her, it's like this chunky freaking, you know, you definitely know there's sausage in it. So
that's interesting.
Good stuff. But honestly, I woke up, I had a couple cups of coffee, and I was just like, she's like, are you going to eat? And I was like, I'm not really hungry, honestly. You know, you get up, you have a cup of coffee or two, and then you hang out. And then maybe if you're, you know, an older man like me, that coffee hits you and you got to run to the bathroom real quick. And then you know, kind of chill out. But yeah, my brother was not feeling really good. So even though, like I said, they went to visit one of my relatives that I really like, I decided to stay home with him, you know, just keep an eye on him and stuff, you know. But 1900, damn, Iron Man, that is an old house. Yeah, in Kentucky, there are places in Kentucky where you can buy Amish houses.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you buy the Amish house, you're going to have to put the electricity in it.
Yeah, you know, for, you know, obvious reasons.
Because, yeah, there's no electricity. There's no running water. There might be a pump well somewhere on the premises, like a hand pump, not like an electric pump, obviously.
I mean, I'm pretty sure here we had a pump well. I don't think we use it.
The old farmhouse I grew up in the kitchen had literally one of those old timey
pump wells. Yeah.
Right. But the problem was, you know, since I live in God's rock garden, you couldn't bury pipes hardly ever, you know. So as soon as winter hit, the pipes froze up and you had to go down to the bottom and actually get the water in 5-gallon buckets and bring it up. So not that I'm complaining, it's just the way it was, you know.
I know there was this one guy on YouTube, he talked about buying his old family home and completely rebuilding it himself.
I would, if I had the money and the meth heads that live in my old family home would sell it, I would 100% do that. But the problem is we never owned that farm. My grandparents rented it. And the people that owned it, you know, they were really good people, but they passed away. And unfortunately, their grandkids are a bunch of methed out assholes. And they really let the place go to shit.
That happens a lot, it seems. Like my cousin, he had a place like that where, you know, he was renting a home from his mother's friend, and then she died, and the kids got it, and then it's like, oh yeah, never mind, you gotta go.
Yep.
It's like, oh yeah, you can stay here. No, never mind, we're selling it.
And they just let it go. They just haven't taken care of it at all. So now it just looks like, there's like roof issues that need to be fixed, and
Yeah.
God only knows what else would need to be fixed, but they're too busy being, meth addicts to worry about shit like that. And the one guy, if he's still up there, he was a hardcore Satanist when I was younger too. So I wouldn't trust that guy as far as I could throw him,
Yeah.
He was not a good person. He will definitely, aside from the satanic stuff, he'll definitely go to hell just for the other stuff he's done. Like, I remember one time he threw a bunch of baby kittens off a cliff because he didn't want them. I beat his ass. And then his grandpa saw me beat his ass and didn't even stop me. And then when I got done beating his ass and he ran to his grandpa told him he deserved it. But that's what I'm saying. The grandparents were really cool people. But the kids, or grandkids, were just a bunch of maniacs, It's just like, why? Oh, warning. Your sex robot could be hacked and programmed to kill you. And the response is, well, how's that any different from a real girlfriend? They're so fire. Oh, yeah. It's up to you to break generational feminism. Yeah, she's the boss. Happy
I
wife.
tried to warn people about this with the self-driving cars.
Better to shut the fuck up.
Self-driving cars is also a stupid idea. Hey there, Hungar.
Oh, it's got a Pepe the Frog, and it says it's the CEO of racism. And it's like, enough about my racist past. Let's talk about my racist future. Freaking Pepe. Those are some fire ass memes you guys be sending. Well, you. But, my other brother sends some fire memes too. Iron Man, I don't know who Danny Thomas is. So that might be really impressive, but not necessarily to me right this second, because like I said, I don't know who he is. The only person born near to where I was born is freaking Achy Breaky Heart guy. Actually, no. Achy Breaky Heart guy, Dwight Yoakam, and I guess Miley Cyrus, technically. Daniel Boone. He wasn't born there. He is an immigrant. No, he's still got the whole force thing now. Yeah, but he migrated from England through Virginia to Kentucky, I think. Yeah, right. Leave that swampy ass Virginia as quick as he could. And then somewhere near where Leth lives, the lady from Hunger Games was born there. Yeah. And also the guy who played the pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Johnny Depp.
And Muhammad Ali.
I liked him. He should have kept his original name.
Which was?
Cassius Clay.
What did they ever change the names on the streets? Because used to, the last time I was up there, which granted was 30 years ago at least, it was still Cassius Clay Boulevard.
Yeah, but Muhammad Ali, his original name was Cassius Clay. He changed it to Muhammad Ali when they converted to Islam.
Oh, okay. Then he's a good guy. Yeah, I mean, you don't got to explain to me who Muhammad Ali is. I had the Muhammad Ali action figure doll.
Well, here's the fun part. He changed his name from an abolitionist to a slave owning white guy's name.
Yeah, I don't know if he thought about that really as hard as he maybe should have. He was also a separatist.
Yeah.
Like in real life, Muhammad Ali, he really, really, really thought that black people should
Also,
either go back to Africa or get their own country.
actually, I thought he didn't like Africa. I'm so glad that his dad got on that boat. Maybe that's after he went to
But
Africa.
he was like super like against interracial relationships, and
I think he just like early on he was really swayed by a lot of that crap, and then from what I've heard, his later life he was a lot more chilled out.
well, that's how everybody is, you know.
Yeah.
When you're young, you're like a maniac. Then you get older, and you're like, nah, who cares, you know.
But I remember it because
Then all you worry about when you're older is yelling at the kids for being on your lawn. But otherwise, you don't really care.
I mean, I remember a few things about it, like him fighting. I think it was like Sonny Liston, and really he should have lost.
If you're talking about the Rumble in the Jungle, he was fighting against Foreman.
Foreman? Oh, maybe it was Foreman then.
No, not maybe. If it's the Rumble in the Jungle, it was George Foreman.
Yeah, okay.
And George Foreman should have absolutely won that fight.
Okay, yeah, that was.
But Muhammad Ali had showed up a week before the fight and basically wined and dined all the judges and everybody.
Yeah.
So he pretty much won over everyone. And so when it come time to...
Heard everybody was confused, though, how Foreman lost that one.
Yeah, when it come time for the judges to start scoring up the points, Ali got the advantage on that because, you know, he'd been out drinking and whining and dining with the judges. Which just goes to show you one thing for sure, and that is that Ali was smart. Like, he understood the way shit worked.
Yeah.
Because he rolled in there and he basically buttered everybody up and he won that fight. Even though at the time, George Foreman was one of the hardest hitters in boxing, which is probably why Muhammad Ali late in life was like kind of retarded. Because, I mean, he took a lot of hits to the head. And when you take a lot of hits to the head from guys like George Foreman, etc., I mean, you are not going to be a normal human being after that.
So basically, he just had to hope out not to get knocked out in that fight, and he wins.
Pretty much. I mean, that was Muhammad Ali's thing was rope-a-dope you, keep you at a distance, take the hits, and then when you're tired, knock you out. So that was kind of his thing. He would just outlast people, dance around them, whatever, you know, talk a bunch of shit about how pretty he was. He can't beat me. I'm so pretty. I'm so pretty. I'm so fast. You know, that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, he was 100% like a black nationalist. He super anti-race mixing. Some guy actually asked him, why are you so against race mixing? And he's like, well, I want my kids to look like me. Don't you want your kids to look like you? You know, and shit like that. There's interviews still on YouTube where he's saying shit like that.
Based, right, James?
Right. He's saying stuff like, what black people need to do is buy land and all just move there and start our own town. And just, you know, do our own thing. And, you know, and the guy interviewing him's like, what the, you know? But Muhammad Ali, yeah, he said point blank, I married a beautiful black woman because I want my kids to look like me. You know, I don't want my kids looking like, not like me, you know? And the guy interviewing him was a British guy. And you could tell how uncomfortable the British guy was. He was just like, holy shit. You know what I mean? And
Oh
Ali
man,
was just going on about, just talking.
I'd probably be egging this on, just like seeing where I could get this conversation to go. I'd just be like, yes, this is gonna be fun.
Yep, it was a white British guy interviewing Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali telling him how he wanted to live somewhere where there were no white people, and how opposed to interracial marriage he was, and how every race should stay with its kind, etc., etc. Basically, everything that they say the Ku Klux Klan used to preach, Muhammad Ali preached all that shit too. I mean, him and the Klan could have been best friends because they believed the same shit. They were like, yep, no interracial marriage, no mixing, no nothing. That's what he believed. I mean, and I don't know why. He was a poor kid from Louisville, Kentucky, but that was just how he felt about the whole thing. Then they wanted to throw him in jail because he refused to go to Vietnam. And that's where you get that famous saying where he said the N word on TV. And what he said is, Vietnamese man never called me, the N word, when he was explaining why he wasn't going to Vietnam, because he's like, they're not my enemy, and I don't want to go, and I ain't going. And so I think he spent a little time in jail, but eventually, because of what a celebrity he was and everything, they had to kind of
just let him
go easy on him. And then they did the thing at the Olympics where, they did the Black Power fist thing and everybody got pissed. But, whatever.
He was just too pretty.
That was just Muhammad Ali, man. That was just how he was. He was a little based. Yeah, a little based. He was like based before people knew what based was,
Yes. He was the first base person.
He was the first base guy. Now, he wouldn't have liked Hungar at all. He would have been mad at Hungar. Hungar would have been coming around the neighborhood, and Ali would have been like, why are you over here with our beautiful black women? You got your own women. Go sleep with them.
And I said, like, you said it, buddy. R.
Well, when he said R, he didn't mean you, Whitey. But, yeah. So Hungar and Ali might have had issues because Hungar would be all up in the hood, living that hood life. But you know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. A lot of people might be all like, man, that's a horrible thing. Me, I'm all like, all right, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. How does it affect me?
Yeah, I don't give a shit. If Ali wanted to be a black separatist and live in an all-black town, it don't bother me a bit. I don't care.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Doesn't hurt my feelings.
Again, if I was
do
like
whatever he wants to do, and I'll be like, all right, cool.
If I was born back then and I was able to get a job as like a news reporter and I got to talk to him, I'd probably be more like egging this on, just seeing how funny I could make it.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't care. It's like when I hear these like black nationalist dudes on TV talking about we're going to buy a bunch of land in Tennessee and make a town and only black people can live in it. I'm like, all right.
Okay. I'm pretty sure
others doesn't hurt my feelings. You do what you do.
Actually, yeah, the Native Americans did that.
They did. The Cherokee got their own little town now.
They bought up an old town and just lived there.
The school in the Cherokee language, and they run gift shops, and they're taking care of business, and you know what? Good for them.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for everybody, So I have no issues with people wanting to live near their own people, and I never have, and I don't know if that makes me a bad person or whatever. But like, maybe it's because the man who raised me was from Queens. And I'll tell you what, when you go to New York, every neighborhood is some type of neighborhood. You know what I mean? It's not like you're in, hey, I'm in so and so in Queens. No, you're in the Jewish neighborhood in Queens. And Jamaica, Queens, yeah, ain't a whole lot of pale skinned guys roaming about Jamaica.
What about Unica?
Huh?
What about Unica? I think it was called or pronounced.
Unica? I think that's not in New York City. Unica, I think, is another city. It's upstate.
Upstate.
When you go upstate New York, everyone's white.
Okay.
Like you might as well be in Canada. You know, that's upstate.
Okay.
And
I don't know much
New
about
Yorkers are bigger hillbillies than hillbillies in Kentucky. I mean, that's like those dudes are like Ichabod Crane.
They can't do that. That's our thing.
I know, but that's how upstaters are. They are freaking hillbillies. They're growing their freaking apple groves and whatever else they're doing. And mostly upstate New Yorkers, mostly the ones I've met, absolutely hate New Yorkers from the city. They just hate them. Astoria, full of Greeks and Germans. Yeah, if you go to Chicago, you will go to neighborhoods where everyone in that neighborhood is Russian. And every sign on every restaurant is in Cyrillic. Like, it's surreal. You're like, am I even in America? You know what I mean?
So that's where the Soviet Union went.
And there's a shit ton of Polacks up there, too. And Greeks. In Chicago, a lot of Greeks.
Well, I was going to say that until the Greeks came. Then it's like, hey, that doesn't mesh.
But you got a bunch of Polish people, and then you got a bunch of Russian people, and the Russian people typically own all of the over-the-road trucking companies out of Chicago.
Huh.
So if you are a Slav, like a Serbian or something, and you really need a job, get your Class A CDL license, haul your ass up to the Russian neighborhood in Chicago, and you'll get a job. You'll be driving a truck over the road for a Russian company in no time. And I know that for a fact because my Serbian brother-in-law, that's what he did. Because, because it's just the way it is, Jeff Foxworthy taught me half my family in New York City suburbs or rednecks. They are. Like, once you leave New York, and I mean the actual island, and I'm not even counting Long Island. I'm counting like, Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, that the five boroughs or whatever.
Yeah.
Once you leave that area, New York gets totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally different. And then it's a little bit different even if you're in different boroughs in the city. But I mean, Queens is Queens. Queens is kind of like the working class part of New York where people who had a little bit of money that they could live in the city, but not enough money that they could live somewhere better, all lived. And a lot of Queens was divided up by ethnic neighborhoods. Like where my dad grew up was all Jewish. Everyone was Jewish, like every single person. That would be, of course, back in the 60s. But I think the last time he said he went up, it was all Asian now. But there would be like the Italian neighborhood where like everyone there was Italian. There was the Jewish neighborhood, or the Irish neighborhood where one of his best friends lived. Mickey O'Malley or something like that. And they were best friends because one time they were out doing crimes and the cops caught the Irish friend and they beat him with a rubber hose to try and get him to tell him who his accomplices was. And he did not break. So they had, of course,
he's Irish.
Right? And my pop said the thing with him is had he ratted out the other guys, his parents would have whipped his ass. his dad would have beat him. So that dude was not ratting out anybody. And that was just how the Irish were back in the 60s. You know what I mean? It's like, and since my pop had a Irish dad and a Jewish mother, he was technically Jewish according to Jewish rules, but all of the like full-blooded Jewish kids weren't allowed to play with him because he was basically considered dirty or whatever. So all of his friends growing up were like mixed. He hung out with a big Scandinavian guy, a couple Italian guys, and they would do stuff. I mean, I'm not saying he was a good fella, but he was good fella adjacent. You know what I mean? Like he never like joined in a crew, but he knew crews.
He was crew adjacent.
Yeah, he was definitely crew adjacent. He knew where all of the basement supermarkets were, where you could go and buy, you know, stuff that fell off trucks. And he was well liked, you know, by everybody. And he, you know, he might have did a few things here and there to help friends out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at no time was he ever like actually
Part of the mafia
committed to that stuff.
He wasn't mobbed up.
No, he wasn't mobbed up. He knew guys, but he wasn't mobbed up. And he really couldn't be mobbed up because he was half Jewish, half Irish. And in order to get mobbed up, like made man mobbed up, you had to be 100% Sicilian.
Yeah.
And, yep, he hung out with the Swede who was a made man. And the Swede, his whole deal was he was like an enforcer. So if you owed a mob guy money and you weren't coming up off of it, they sent the Swede. And between you and I, the Swede probably killed people. He definitely beat the brakes off of them. You know what I mean? Like
Hey,
break kneecaps and shit.
That's
But
what happens.
he probably killed people too.
I mean, back in the 40s, there were 3 mobsters who killed a homeless Irishman for insurance money.
Yeah.
They didn't succeed, but they tried. Yeah, they did kill the. They just failed on the insurance money part.
My pops told me, and I don't know if this story is true, that one time the Swede was hanging out in a bar in Queens, and this gay man walked up and tried to hit on him. And the Swede pulled out a straight razor and cut the gay man's ear off, like right on the spot. And the gay man went running out the door screaming, and everyone in the bar just laughed. You know, they just laughed. And it was like no one was calling the cops. And he was like, you know, being a Swede. It was like the movie Hamburger Hill when they're like the Swede. That's what he was like. My pop said this dude was like 6'5", built like a freaking shit house. You know what I'm saying? Just a giant. And he was definitely 100% part of a crew.
Yeah.
And but O'Malley and my pops were not. Like I said, they were friends. They knew people, but they never mobbed up. And yeah. And yeah, like Goodfellas, exactly like Goodfellas. And this would be the 60s and very early 70s. So it was during that time when, you know, it was like gangster's paradise in New York. You know what I mean? Everybody was doing whatever. The cops weren't looking super close at anything. And,
here's something, James, a bit of a change of topic, but what do you think about that Confederate songs I posted in the music to paint to?
Well, I liked them.
Sung in Japanese.
I liked them.
Yeah.
They were cool.
That was cool.
You and your weeaboo shit, but still cool. Still cool. You're still cool in my book, love.
I still find it interesting to find some Japanese person singing Confederate songs.
So there, I'm getting her done.
Yeah.
I still need to do the interior, which I will probably do with a leather or tan color. And then I'll probably do a dry brush of chocolate brown on the boards. And I might actually paint. There's an area right here. I might actually paint that a color. And then the very bottom where it touches the water, I might paint that white because a lot of times that's what the British would do. Now, the captain's quarters in the back, I don't know. I might paint that some other color, green or, something like that, just to, make it fancier for the captain.
That's one thing I want to do was actually make a ship that I might want to have in one of my games.
This guy right here, I believe, if I remember correctly, I got it on sale off of Etsy. It was multiple pieces, and it was $80.
Nice.
So, but it was on sale. It was regularly like 100 and something. But
I'm just wondering.
If you go to Etsy and you pay attention, every now and then you'll catch them selling stuff like this guy right here also come from Etsy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say how much it was.
It was a lot, wasn't it?
It was a lot.
Here's
but
something
of course it would be, it's 12 fully detailed decks.
I've always wanted a ship that could be kind of really iconoclastic, like, the Black Pearl was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I've seen on Etsy ships that look just like the Black Pearl.
Yeah, but I want it to be
pirate ships.
Cool and different to that. Like something that'd be very iconoclastic that'd be interesting to have. I just don't know how.
Well, one way to do it would just be you have an FDM printer, man. Set your printer out.
I know.
You can get these. This was from an STO you can buy.
Yeah, I know.
The money I paid was because some dude in Maryland actually made all the parts and melted.
This isn't about just having the model. It's more about how I want it designed before I make the model or buy the model.
Well, like I said, just look around. You'll find STLs. I actually ordered STLs of 28 millimeter butterfly wings because one of the guys in the Talislanta game wants to play a Muse, and Muse look like humans, except slighter built, skinnier, and they all have butterfly wings.
Okay.
And they even have limited flight, depending on their constitution and their, level and everything. So, yeah.
I'll even have to come up with a cool name for the ship later on.
A cool name for a ship, man. So many.
Yep.
Where do you even start?
If we were still going to do that pirate campaign, which we might sometime go back to, there was an idea that I had to actually have a ship made out of I can't remember what it was exactly called, but it was like bay. They call it like bay wood iron or something like that. It's basically a wood from the Fey realm.
But see, you're talking fantasy stuff now.
Yeah.
Like this ship right here, which I still need to put the front cells on, came in a box for $39. And it come with all kinds of bonus parts and everything. The only thing it didn't come with is cells.
And what type of ship would I want? Because yeah.
Well, the one I just showed you is a schooner or a sloop.
That's a sloop.
And they're very common. They were very common. And the kit itself gives you multiple ways to rig it out. So you can rig it out as a Bermuda or as a another type, whatever, And I recently got, should be over here somewhere. No, I'm not going to look for it. A big spool of elastic black thread. Because if you're going to do the rigging on a ship, you want to use elastic thread. And if you put a little tension on it before you tie it off, it'll look tight. But if you try to do the rigging with normal thread, it'll end up hanging and looking all whatever, you know. That's the problem with my Martian ship. The rigging I put on it's now just droopy. So I should probably cut the rigging off the Martian ship, which I could use the Martian ship definitely in a Talislanta game. It's just a big ass wind ship, you know, even though it was technically made for. So anyway, what I'm going to have to do is find some kind of dainty elf looking figure, hopefully a bard or something, and I'm going to have to glue the butterfly wings on it. And then paint the butterfly wings up like really colorful, like a colorful butterfly. And then that will be his character. And to make things even worse, his character doesn't speak.
Take it though. Yeah, most fairies don't have butterfly wings, so I was
telepath.
What?
He's a telepath. He doesn't speak. He can't speak. He communicates by sending waves of emotion or pictures at you.
Yeah, I know, but I thought, okay, you want a winged creature, you could probably upscale a fairy model up a little bit. And
yeah, I could probably, if I wanted to 3D print one, get like a pixie and just upscale it to like 28 mil. But I just ended up buying the wings because they were cheap.
Okay.
And already done. And
I think and if you have like an elf, you could
5 pairs of them.
Yeah, and if you have like an elf mini, that would work fine.
And I have tons of elf minis. And yeah, so and like this Kinku I've painted him blue because he's going to be a blue anid, which is a kind of a bird people that live in the they live in the 9 kingdoms. And the blue ones are usually more devoted to war, and the green ones are usually more devoted to magic and peace and growing things and whatever, you know. So Hungar, instead of playing a thrall, which is what he always played, has decided to play a blue Birdman.
Blue Birdman, why not?
Like, okay. And then another guy who always plays a warrior type in every game we ever play is playing a muse, which is like, okay.
Sometimes you have to change it up a little bit.
Yeah. And then the chick that always plays a gnome, she's playing a gnome. Because gnomes are like, you know, one of the few things from like D&D that kind of sort of exists in Talislanta is the gnomekin. And they're not exactly gnomes, but they're close enough.
They're close enough.
Yeah, they live underground and they carve shit out crystal and, you know, whatever. So close enough for her anyway. So she's going to be a gnomekin. I'm not sure if she wants to be a crystal mancer or...
Our gnomes are very different, so that'd be a thing.
Yeah, the Bermuda sloop, and then the other one I forget the name of, and I got the cards here somewhere. I could always just look at the cards because the ships come with cards so you can keep track of the damage they've taken.
Yeah.
But you've got the Bermuda and the Balandra. And the difference is the Bermuda has a square cell, I believe, in the front. And the Balandra does not. And let's see. Also, the Balandra has more upgrades.
But yeah, talking about gnomes, the RuneQuest gnomes are very different.
Yeah.
They're machines.
Yeah. And Gnomekin in Talislanta, they're basically gnomes, but they don't really grow a lot of beard. And they live underground and they mine crystals. And they have magic called crystalmancy, where they can take a crystal, carve it into a thing, and then use the crystalmancy to make it harder than iron. So a lot of gnomekin use crystal blades. swords with crystal blades on them. And the advantage of that is those swords ignore half of your opponent's armor.
Neat. I'm gonna have to get off here though. I'll see ya.
Okay. Get off, go do your chores or whatever. Yep. I did this early, so all the usual suspects are probably still working or whatever. My poor little puppy's losing his mind because his mama is out and about with my mama. But yeah, so gnomekin are just what they are. You can use any short, relatively beardless figure to represent gnomekin. They're also very durable gnomekin in this game, so they receive like slightly less damage every time they're hit. They're really cool race. But their negative is they have to wear eye lenses anytime they're on the surface, otherwise they can't see. So that is an issue for a gnomekin if you want to play one. Is they have night vision, which is nice, but at the same time they're blind in daylight, which is not nice at all. That's kind of sucks. So there's that. And then and then the muse never speaks, but they can summon a pet called a wisp, and the wisp can speak for the muse. So it's kind of like, extra steps. But the muse itself, in addition to be a telepath, they tend to, know magic, like nature magic and, wizardry and whatever. So, I mean, so that guy, his character is going to be really weak in combat because muses don't have a lot of health or combat skills or anything. But he's going to have magic and a lot of, different skills that might help him out if they ever happen to be in a forest area. So, yeah. Which they're all going to start in the Emerald City, which is the capital of Cimmeria. So, yeah. And then one guy chose to play the Trap Maker guys, which look like their normal form. They look like really old men. They're kind of almost hunched over and they wear robes and stuff. And their whole specialization is that they are really, really good at making traps and also really, really good at disarming traps. So, yeah. But they're not thieves, so they're not good at stealthing or picking pockets or anything. They're just really good when it comes to traps. Because that's what they do. That's how they defend their kingdom. Their whole kingdom is just like nothing but freaking traps everywhere. And no, I don't mean like, young men who are dressed up like Asian anime girls. I mean, the kind of traps that'll cut your head off. Well, I guess those would too, but regardless. So I wonder, have any of you guys looked into the new game that come out? I think some Chinese company put it out, and it's like it's basically Overwatch except Marvel characters. Have any of you guys looked at that? I mean, and if so, what do you think? But I know the Blizzard guys, according to what I was watching on, I think Endymion. I like Endymion's channel. A lot of the Blizzard guys are losing their shit on Twitter about it because they're trying to say it's just a copy of Overwatch. But it's like, I mean, a copy of Overwatch? Like, Overwatch is a first person shooter game. Those things have been out since, like, I don't know, Doom? Back in the whatever, Castle Wolfenstein? You know, Battlefield 1942, the best Battlefield. Especially if you were playing with the Forgotten Hope mod. A reference most of you probably will not get. So yeah, it's like you can't copyright different characters running around an area killing each other, right? And what the Japanese game has over or Chinese game has over the Blizzard game is instead of random characters that Blizzard made up, it's Marvel characters. So you can play, you know, Black Widow, you can play the Hulk, you can play Captain America, etc. Now, I don't know if you can play Deadpool because, I mean, that would be my deal, you know. Deadpool, who would probably be like a close range DPSer of some sort. And mainly because of all the standard Marvel characters, Deadpool really is the only one I like. Now, if they introduced the Watchmen, then it would be like a choice. Because I'd be like, do I want to play Rorschach? Do I want to play the comedian? Even Ozymandias would be an option. Night Owl could be cool, you know, like a class that does nothing but gadgeteer shit. That would be cool, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to play a class that just gadgeteers everything? I mean, I think that would be really cool. But yeah. And there goes the mail, man. I ordered some Reaper figures a while back. I mean, other than the ones I've got in front of me. And hopefully they'll show up. And I'm also still waiting for my 2-player box set of Blood and Plunder. And I emailed those guys too and was like, hey, you know, I ordered this shit literally 15 days ago. And you haven't even shipped it yet. Like, what's going on here with this? I mean, I don't want to be like the bad customer, but at the same time, I feel like if I order product from you and you're an American company stationed like 2 states away from where I live, it should not take 15 days and you still haven't shipped, you know, the thing I ordered. That just seems a little bit, you know, inefficient, out of pocket. I don't know what word I would use. You guys come up with the word, but, you know, it seems like, wait a minute, you know, that shit should be there, especially considering that I ordered 1 copy for somebody's birthday, or not birthday, Christmas gift. So it's like, you know, let's get this shit knocked out, right? I can hear him out there. Means I'm gonna have to go check the mail. But let me finish this first. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave you alone. And I'm gonna go check the mail. There's only 3 of us here anyway, so. But I'm getting a lot of painting done. Uh-oh. Yeah, not very steady on my feet sometimes. Beep, beep, bing. Come on, buddy. Good boy. Let me get you a treat. Say, let me get you a treat, because you are a good pup. Getting the pup a treat. Treat, 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 treat. See what we have gotten. You not think I already know. And it's not Reaper miniatures, but that's okay. All right, homies. UPS or USPS brought me something, and I already know what it is. Oh, my glasses. Yeah, I got those. I keep forgetting this pair of glasses has the, if I go out in the dark, or out in the light, they shade up. These are vampire cards. Yep. Damn, these came quick. Now, the vampire cards came really quick. I have to check my phone, make sure it's not my wife. See what we got here. Malkavian Prank. Burning Wrath. Yeah, I needed that for the Bruja decks. Because the Bruja decks needed some way to do some ag damage. And strike at strength +2 ag. Yeah, that'll send some people into torpor. For whatever reason, the guy I buy my vampire cards from, he sells a lot of the common cards in like stacks of 10. And no, I do not intend on putting 10 of these in a deck. So, maybe like 5, 4, But we played Vampire last night. It was a 3-player game, and I got wrecked. Riggedy wrecked. Yeah, the guy playing the Gangrel deck actually whipped everyone's ass. So we got Malkavian Prank, and we've got Brute Force. And that's like 10 Brute Forces. And what does Brute Force do? It's a potence ability. Hand strike at +1 damage, or use a melee weapon melee at +2 damage, or if you have advanced potence, but +1 damage. So cool. Just gives me the ability to do a little bit of extra damage during a fight. That's what you need if you got potence. And 10 of these I don't mind, because there's a lot of clans that have potents, so I could throw like 4 in a Bruja deck and 3 or 4 in a Nosferatu deck or whatever, and then throw some into maybe a Giovanni deck or Hakata. So that's going to be pretty okay. I'm pretty good with that. That'll be fine, the Burning Wrath one, I think that could be, it didn't say Bruja only, even though it should be, because Burning Wrath is a Bruja only ability, but I didn't see that. So maybe that's another one that would be a good surprise to throw into, one of the other decks that have potents in it, just to liven things up on somebody, The only negative is the vampire that uses that ability has to burn 3 blood. That is expensive. Burning 3 blood is very expensive stuff. So it's getting cold out. I wonder where Vic is. I wonder if he's working. Vic. Man. And the guy, well, my brother, that was saying that he might consider going up to Minnesota with me if I was serious about it. Yeah, got his car wrecked the other day. Not his fault. Some asshole riding an electric bike down a sidewalk went out in front of him and hit him head on. And it crushed the windshield, knocked one of the lights out. Basically, it effed his car up really good. And then when the insurance company came and looked at it, they're like, yeah, we're going to total it out. And he's like, okay, how much? And they're like, $900. He's like, what? Yeah, insurance. It's awesome. $900. It's like $900. That's what you get. Good luck replacing it. He'll be riding an electric bike to work. I don't think $900 would afford an electric bike. I think they cost like $1,000 or more. So either way, it's trash. It's garbage. He got screwed. And that means any chances of him driving me to Minnesota are just not going to happen. And Hungar can't do it because, he wouldn't be able to enjoy any part of the convention, since he would probably be, passed out in the room trying to recover from the drive most of the time we would be there. So, yeah, no matter how you look at it, it's just like, sucks. Now, I did price an a flight, and it wasn't too bad. And I priced 5 rooms in a hotel very close to the convention. And that was very, very expensive. But, I would want to arrive the day before the tournament started and leave the day after the tournament started. I wouldn't want to just show up the day of tournament and then leave when it ended, because I feel like that would just be tiring, and I wouldn't be able to do, everything I wanted to do if I did it that way. It's crazy too. I haven't been to a game tournament and for so long, years, at least 2 or 3 now. And I used to, not only did I used to go to game tournaments all the time, but a few of them I went to, I would be called upon to be a judge for like painting competitions and things like that, you know? So, you know, at least in this area, I used to be pretty up on things, you know? I knew a lot of the tournament organizers and the owners of the local comics or hobby stores and all that, because I was such a nerd there for the longest time. Like 20 years ago, when my wife and I first got together, every Saturday, I would get up, she would get up, we would grab whatever army I was going to play, plus some extra miniatures. We would go to our local comic shop, which was like a 15-minute drive. And then we would, she would sit at a table with the painters and the painter girlfriends. And me and my bro would play like fantasy or 40K, something like that, you know, whichever one we were doing that week, because we would switch back and forth. And then at the end of the game, we would all go to Red Lobster and have lunch or dinner, whatever. But yeah, so like every Saturday, I'd be in the Coliseum of Comics for like 8 hours, you know, hanging out, playing games, whatever. And she would be there too. She actually painted my Chaos Warrior army, like the whole army she painted. And it's a pretty well painted army too, for fantasy, you know, not for 40K. It's Chaos for fantasy. So a lot of warriors with like, you know, big shields or two-handed weapons, and beastmen as allies and demons as allies. And, you know, you guys know the deal. If you know anything about old school fantasy, you know. And yeah, she painted it up for me. When I got the Dark Elf Lord on Black Dragon, she painted that up. Let's see. Epic Games just sent me a letter late, but it says that the other stuff is on the way. So yay, my Talislanta stuff is on the way. Good to know, because it's like, you know, I paid $129 or something for that, maybe even more. It might have been $200. So let's see exactly what it says. We will get that out to you ASAP. Must have been a mistake by fulfillment somehow. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Or if that's Chris Secchi, or if that's the guy who wrote it. Is his name Chris Secchi? Let's see. No, his name's Steven Secchi. So I don't know who Chris is, but they're getting my shit out immediately. It says here, final edition with separate 5e conversion pledge confirmation. Yeah. So yeah, that's the highest level you could back that Kickstarter at, which is why I've been kind of a little bit on the bitchy side, guys, because it's like, really? I mean, at least they sent me the freaking player's handbook. Not that I need it, because they also sent me the PDF. So, you know, whatever. But I, you know, you know how it is. If you pay for it, you want it, right? Right. That's how it is. You paid for it, you want it. And I paid for the full deal. I want the big freaking slipcase with the 3 books and everything else that goes with it. And, that, or, give me the money back, which I don't want. That's not what I want. You know what I mean? It's like, nope, I don't want my money back. I want the product that I bought. That's what I want. I mean, the $200 is nice and all, but actually, I would just much rather have the thing I ordered. And that should be a pretty easy ask, you would think, but not necessarily. So the next thing I need to get is an email from Firelock Games telling me they've sent my shit out too. And then I'll be freaking stoked, right? Then it'll be like, nice. Anyway, I think it might be time to end this. I'll probably continue sitting here and painting, but we've been going for a couple hours and I can tell that interest has faded. So I don't know if someone else is on right now. Maybe the old geek's on Tuesdays. Is he on Tuesdays? I always forget if it's Tuesday or Thursday. I always end up catching his show, like when I'm laying in bed at night. I watch his show and his reviews of videos of modules are really good. Their conversations about gaming are okay. I mean, for rookies, they're doing okay. Many men. See, somebody will be like, hey, James said that the old geek was a rookie. Start some drama. It's so funny. I mean, I don't even know what a rookie is when it comes to DMing. It's like, I think people care too much about it. And besides that, I'm the greatest there ever was. But in reality, yeah, there's all these arguments about who's this and who's that, like who's the rookie and who ain't the rookie. And it's like, does anyone really care? I mean, this seems like a weird thing to care about, That's what you do on Twitter. You go on Twitter and, listen to people talk about the one true way of gaming. It's like, a lot of times I just, troll because it's like, I really don't care enough about whatever we're talking about. Anyway. Yeah, just did some basing on a couple of figures I had laying around. That's good. I still need to finish these Cossacks. So, yeah, let me put this up and head on out. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Get kicked in the scrotum, my friend. And yeah.